Every week at this time, I love to check in with Ben Hushon of the Mill in Whitehall, Maryland, to find out what's going on the East Coast. We've heard from the Northwestern Corn Belt. We've heard from the Southern Plains today. Let's check in the Mid-Atlantic region with Ben right now. Ben, thanks for checking in here. I know you wanted to talk about a weather issue there that early on this spring, I believe you guys had all kinds of rain. You didn't know if you could get the crops in the ground. And then here recently, you've had kind of a warm, dry trend. Did you finally get some rain?
Good morning, Marlin. Yes, we did. I think for about 3 weeks in a row, I was telling you no rain, harvest is rolling, no rain. Sunday into Monday, we finally got, we need some rain for small grain, so we finally had that inch and a half up in Hartford, Baltimore, York County, up in the Maryland, Pennsylvania area. Talked to a friend down on the eastern shore of Maryland, not quite so much, only a quarter or 3/10, and they're hoping to catch some more here in the east for sure, northeast corner. Well, as soon as corn and beans come off, typically we're putting cover crop and small grain, wheat, barley in, and a lot of guys had held off. They said, don't bring any wheat or barley yet. We want to wait and see if it rains. So now we're thinking guys will get back into it here in the next day or two when it dries up.
I know you had talked with us earlier about the fact that they had started their corn harvest. I would imagine they're glad to get the rain, but that's probably going to keep the combines in the shed for a little while.
It did. It's been interesting, Marlin, to watch for the last 3 weeks. Corn harvest got started, and I mentioned this last week. It had gotten started, and then they switched over an awful lot of them in our area had switched over to soybeans. Suddenly, they were running 22-25% corn, and they switched heads and went into soybeans and found 8, 9, 10% soybeans and went at them pretty hard. So the bean fields, as you viewers can see, the soybean fields, a lot of them are cleaned off, at least the full season beans, while full season corn, short season corn is still standing there. It's something we're not used to seeing in the Mason-Dixon line area.
So do they plant wheat in your local area there very much?
They do. Even with the price, wheat kind of slipped back a little. Wheat's a double crop for us in a couple ways. It's a double crop because they'll put some soybeans in next summer when they harvest, but also straw is still pretty valuable. The construction market buys a lot of the straw in their pocket. Some of the mushroom folks, they'll take straw, don't pay quite as much, obviously, as the folks in the construction business. So they get the price of the grain and also the value of the straw. So it's something to consider. We've been 3 weeks without rain, so as they start to plant wheat, they may want to conserve. We're suggesting to our customers, you may want to conserve that inch and a half of rain we have and consider no-tilling that small grain in, because you don't know. You don't know how many weeks we're gone until the next rain.
I know it all too well, coming from the Central Plains where it's kind of semi-arid there. So, Ben, thank you for the update, and thanks for sharing the photos, too. I appreciate that beautiful countryside there in your particular part of the country there in Maryland. So, Ben, I look forward to talking with you next week. Hopefully the guys will be able to get the harvest activity back underway in good shape. Ben Hushon of the Mill in Whitehall, Maryland. We'll be back in just a moment, and I'll take a look at what the futures are doing right now as we have things open and up and running here on a Tuesday. We'll cover it when we come back. Well, again, my thanks to Ben Hushon of the Mill in Whitehall, Maryland, for the update in the Mid-Atlantic region for agriculture. Interesting crops that they grow there. He always has lots to talk about there, about growing conditions and the entire growing season there. Now let's take a look at our current futures trade in Chicago. We'll start with the corn market. And the corn, we actually have just a little bit firmer tone here today. Everybody's looking forward to the USDA reports coming up on Thursday. So right now, the corn firming up just a little bit. We are 1.5 cents higher on December December at 351 per bushel. That's only one tick now from our high of the overnight trade in the early morning trade. March corn up a penny and a quarter at 364, just a half cent from its high. Very narrow trading ranges, though, I will give it that. Now, if we look at the soybean trade, on the soybeans, they benefited from early news this morning that we had sold 131,000 tons of soybeans to China for the 2017 and 2018 marketing year. So that's the one that we're harvesting right now. We have November soybeans gaining 6 cents right now. We're priced at 9.72 3/4, and that's significantly off of our low from the overnight trade. We got as low as 9.65 1/2, and we're off of that now by a good 7 cents or so. January soybeans up 5 1/2 at 9.82 3/4 per bushel. On the wheat trade, here we have Chicago on December, 2 1/2 higher, 438 1/2 per bushel. We're within a penny and a quarter of our high of the day now. March is up 2, July up 2 as well. Kansas City wheat, December is now trading at 434. That would be 3 1/4 cents higher. And July 3 higher at 484 per bushel. Now moving on to Minneapolis spring wheat. That had been trading higher when the other contracts, or the other exchanges rather, were a little bit weaker. Right now it's kind of keeping pace. December now trading 3 1/2 higher on the spring wheat at 626 3/4 per bushel. That July new crop month now 3 higher at 650 per bushel there. Now let's take a look at the cotton market and see what it's doing right now. We have that December new crop contract trading 70 points higher at 69.65 per pound. Now that that has moved up to the top notch on the table, we have the March contract 58 points higher. That popular July contract of 2018 would be up 49 points now, and it's back up above 70 cents. It's at 70.03 per pound. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on in the livestock trade. We talked about the fact that we had no cash cattle movement yesterday. The cutout values yesterday seem to be just kind of all over the place, so not a lot to guide it today. We have the October live cattle contract now firming up by 98 cents. It's quoted at 112.40 per hundredweight. And you have your December contract up 63 at 117.55. For those of you that are viewing at home, you will note that we have the nearby contracts much higher than the deferred contracts are. That would be indicative of what the traders call bull spreading activity there, favoring the nearbys. We have February now 45 higher. It's trading at 121.60 per hundred. And if you look at the feeder cattle side of the equation, right now you have your October contract up 22. It's at 154 even per hundredweight. A very narrow trading range. That's only about 48 cents wide here in that October contract. November now at 155.55 is within a nickel of its low of the day, but it is still a nickel higher than where we closed yesterday. January up 10 at 153.85, kind of in the middle of its trading range. Now moving on to the lean hog trade today. In the early going, October is 75 higher at 59.78. It did poke its head above 60 bucks there for a little bit. It got as high as 60.22 this morning. December lean hogs, that popular contract, it's trading at 61.72, and that is now up 77 cents on the day. February up 76, Janet. So a firmer tone all the way across the lean hog board for a change.
Thanks for keeping up with everything.
There you go.
Thanks, Marlin.